Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Solo Leveling, Season 1, Episode 2, If I Had One More Chance. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. In this episode, Sung Jin-woo manages to figure out how to pass through the dungeon. Obviously, in the last episode, it ended with everyone who was standing being wiped out by the laser eyes. And then at the start of this episode, one of the other hunters decides he's confident with his speed, as that's his skill as an awakener, tries to outrun the lasers once again as soon as he stands up, is blasted by the laser eyes. And this is when Sung Jin-woo realizes that the commandments of the dungeon are the rules of the dungeon to pass it. So the first one is to, show reverence to the statue, and so they all bow to it. Once they've bowed to it, its expression changes, but then it stands up and starts squishing them. Second rule is, of course, praise the god or the statue of the god. And they realize that some of the statues are carrying weapons, whereas other statues have musical instruments. And so Sung Jin-woo tells them to go to the instrument statues, and when they get there, one person per statue, the statue will start to play its instrument, and this allows it to stop. And once everybody who's still alive manages to get under one of the instruments, the statue then goes and sits down, and the last is to prove their faith. And so they all are surrounding an altar. Flames light up, one for each of them, and basically it's like red light, green light, where if you look at the statues, they stop moving. If you look away from the statues, they will move towards you, coming ever closer. So the only way to stop the statues coming is to stand there. However, the doors then open, and those who are more cowardly do make a run for it, and it turns out they're allowed to leave. And eventually they're left with too few people to stop the statues, as there will be blind spots. And it is at this point when Jin-woo, because he's now lost his leg during the trying to find an instrument statue, he accidentally went under a shield one, which chopped his leg off. So before finding the singing statue. Anyways, the point is, he's now disabled, and the other two are fine, at least their legs are fine, and so he then basically lets them leave, but then internally has like a meltdown about how he still wanted to live too, and how dare they leave him, and blah blah blah. Crying on the altar as the statues inevitably come near, as he's no longer able to watch all of them, and the doors are shut because they were the last two to leave. And as he is about to die, he sees a message inviting him to become a player. And that is the cliffhanger that this episode ends on. So now that we've been reminded about the episode, it is now time to rank the episode, and as always, we'll be ranking first on the mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values to determine the score, followed by the personal ranking list, which is purely based on my opinion of the entertainment value. So we'll start with the mostly objective rank values, and we have multi-episode supporting character developments. We have Ju Jae-hwan and Park Bom-sik dying, and they die in the dungeon. Ju Jae-hwan is the one who tried to outrun the laser eyes and failed, and Park Bom-sik dies before they figure out they have to go to instrument statues, and he stands in front of one with a sword and gets cut in half. Song Che-yul, who was the raid leader, ends up losing an arm to the first laser, but he's also the one who realizes that Sung Jin-woo is the one who told everybody really to get down, so he thinks he has an idea, and it turns out he is the one who figures out each of the levels without help from anybody else. because everybody else is too panicked, even though he's the weakest. Um, and then we have the multi-arc supporting character introductions. These are worth 3 points each. And we have Han Song-yi, who is an E-rank hunter and Sung Jin-woo's little sister's friend from school, who does recur in multiple episodes and multiple seasons, I believe. Or it might just be multiple episodes. I can't remember which parts of the manhwa are covered in season 1. I think actually she might just be a multi-episode supporting character now that I'm thinking of it, so worth 2 points. And then we have our multi-season supporting character introductions with Sung Jin-ah, who is a Sung Jin-woo's younger sister, and then Park Kyung-hye, Hi? Hi? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, honestly. Park Kyung-hye is what I'll go with. And that is Sung Jin-ah and Sung Jin-woo's mother, who is in the hospital receiving treatment. And then we have plus 4 points for our multi-season main character growth, which is Sung Jin-woo becoming a player, or being given the option to, at least. But we do have some negative messaging or behavior, and obviously that is the abandonment of a teammate to die in the dungeon, basically sacrificing someone else's life so you can live. Obviously not great behavior, not great messaging, minus 2 points. However, even with that and all of the points, it is now a 10 out of 10 episode objectively. Yep, 10 out of 10. So that brings our mostly objective ranking for season 1 so far to the following. And it will follow this disclaimer, which is that when more than one episode does have the same score on our mostly objective ranking list, because it's mostly objective, we can't really rank one better than the other. So when it gets the same score, we just rank it in the order that it airs in. Which means that in first we have I'm Used to It, which also scored 10, and then this episode, If I Had One More Chance, in second. Now, I may have sounded unenthusiastic throughout the rest of this presentation, video, etc. And that is because, as I mentioned in the last episode, I don't really like this arc with the temple and, everybody panicking and him being particularly weak, and then everybody, you know, not using their own brains, relying on him saving them, and then them just abandoning him to die. Oh, they're such assholes, and it's just terrible, and I don't like it. I've never liked it. Even with the manhwa originally, I did not like it. When I reread the manhwa, I usually skip this part. And I really, really, really love what comes next, like when he actually starts to solo level as per the title. But this part is the part you have to cringe through to get there. I do not enjoy it. I do not like it. But I do think the effects are cool. I do like all of the blue fire. I think he is clever for being able to figure out the rules from the commandments, though I don't understand why nobody else was able to figure that out and, maybe take their own lives into their own hands and so on and so forth. But I didn't like it. I'm not saying there wasn't anything that was positive about it, though, and that is why I decided to ultimately give it a 3 out of 10 instead of a 1, because, clever, fun effects, but everything else about it sucks. So, that does then put it into second place. So in first, I'm used to it. In second, this episode, if I had one more chance. Bringing us to the series ranking so far. And on our mostly objective ranking, season 1 objectively has a 20 out of a possible 120. On the personal side, which I think is way more realistic, season 1 so far has a score of 8 out of a possible 120. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Solo Leveling Season 1, Episode 2, If I Had One More Chance. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.